back to the Rice Report, everyone. I am Eric Rice, of course, your host here. I am joined today by the very well-known and energetic and awesome Emerald Robinson, who is the host of The Absolute Truth. All of you should be watching this and taking a look. She's brave, she's bold, she's saying things other people don't like to hear, but they need to be said. So, Emerald, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to be with you, Eric.
Well, what in the heck is going on? I mean, there's certain people who have their finger on the pulse. You're certainly one of them. And we're seeing kind of, I made this analogy the other day. Politics is kind of like the old TV show, and you're probably too young to remember this, but there's a TV show called Facts of Life. And the theme song from Facts of Life was, you take the good,
Young.
you take the good, you take the bad, you take them both, and there you have the facts of life.
Yep.
And that's politics. That's how it works. You make big campaign promises. You're going to get 50% of them maybe in negotiating tables, but we are seeing some stuff here. First 200 days of Trump, there's a lot of great stuff in there. DEI being basically kicked to the can, ESG, all these other things. These are the low man on the totem pole, easy to knock off on the list. The big stuff is going to take a long time, in my opinion. And he's going to be fighting against a slew of people in his own cabinet that don't have the best interest in mind of America, from my opinion. What are you seeing right now? We just had a couple big developments in NIH. What are you seeing in the cabinet right now, the administration?
It's what I saw in the first term, to a certain degree, is that you have President Trump, you have his agenda, and then you have people who were hired at the lower levels, or either those who are careers, right? The steady state, the federal bureaucracy, that is doing everything it can all day, every day to thwart the president's agenda. Now, his comments on mRNA and Operation Warp Speed of the last couple of weeks, and honestly through the entire term, have been a little bit of a head scratcher, right? So that is coming from the president himself. But he did put Bobby Kennedy in place. He put RFK Jr. in place, who was very critical of the mRNA technology and big pharma over at HHS, and we thought had given him full reign and a mandate to do what he promised the voters that he would do. And that included during Bobby's run as president before he joined the coalition, married the MAGA coalitions, and endorsed President Trump. Specifically at HHS, you do have influence of those who are still very pro big pharma. They're trying to shift the focus to food, right, to dyes, which are concerning.
Absolutely.
Don't get me wrong. We, especially as a mom, very concerned about that, but that's not the big ticket item. It's the mRNA technology and making sure we don't go in that direction any further, and that we undo all the guidances that supported the technology, all the incentives to promote the technology that promoted people getting the jabs, and to educate the public on exactly why they are terrible and state it unequivocally, right? That's what we thought we would get. But there are the influences of those. I'm told that the means, like Cali Means, is very detrimental to the MAHA objectives on mRNA. That is where you get a lot of the push towards food. I am being told, and I will say explicitly today, that his chief of staff, Bobby's chief of staff, Stephanie Spear, I've now been told by multiple sources, is sabotaging the MAHA agenda. She is not friendly to anyone who is truly MAHA. She tries to keep them out of the administration, so keep them from being hired altogether. I know for several people that I've spoken to myself who were told they were getting hired only for it to stop at Stephanie Spear's desk. Now, one person managed to get through, very MAGA, okay? He is like the embodiment of the coalition. He is the marriage of MAHA and MAGA, and he supported Bobby Kennedy, though he didn't, want him to be president, but he was very supportive of Bobby Kennedy being in the administration at the cabinet level as HHS secretary. His name was Gray Delaney. He got hired, much to my surprise, in all honesty, because we'd already seen the way that it was going in the administration, that those people who were truly MAHA were not the ones getting the jobs initially, right? Mm-hmm. So I was very surprised when he got hired. He was hired as a senior advisor, first in public affairs, to Bobby Kennedy at Bobby Kennedy's own request. This was a direct request from the secretary himself. It's the only reason it went through. Gray was hired. He was within the first week, pushed out to external affairs. but he's the kind of person who's going to thrive wherever you put him. And it was actually a great role for him because he was keeping the MAGA coalition from falling apart by trying to inform people, the big voices in the movement who were very critical as to what was going on the inside, saying, look, the secretary is taking care of this, right? And especially remember when they did approve the Moderna jab for kids from 6 months to 12 years old while Bobby Kennedy was on vacation in Greece. The FDA administrator, Marty Makary, came out and made that announcement. Well, you don't make an announcement like that when the secretary's on vacation. And it turns out it was behind his back. Okay. And it would have been worse had it not been, according to many sources, for Vinay Prasad, Dr. Vinay Prasad, who was, under Makary at FDA. Apparently the FDA, board was going to vote for blanket approval for these mRNA jabs. And he managed to stop that from happening, only to be fired. He's the one who got fired a couple of weeks later, although he kept the fallout. I mean, this would have been very bad for Kennedy, right?
Yes. Let's
just look at the optics of it. Been terrible optics for Kennedy if he came back and all those jobs were given approval. He was forced out. And now you have Gray. Gray has been the only person that I have seen from HHS, and he's only been there about 40 days, who has been trying to reach out to the public, to the big voices in the movement, to the influencers, if you will, a lot of the doctors who were anti-jab, and saying, hey, this is what's going on, on the inside, this is where this is going, and trying to run an effective campaign like you're supposed to do. Sure. That's how they're supposed to work. He got Dr. Stephen Halfhill, who is fantastic, on out here in the media. He was on my show today. He was on Banage yesterday, and he pulls no punches. He explains that the mRNA technology is very bad. They understand it. And what was important on my show today is that Halfhill revealed that he'd written several papers about it, outlining the evidence and the data to support Secretary Kennedy's decision to pull those 22 BARDA grants, essentially, right? Remember, he pulled money from BARDA that was going to companies, at least 22 projects, to develop more mRNA technology. So Halfhill has written papers to support why this was the right move. Stephanie Spear has not allowed them to be released to the public yet. And Halfhill says the public needs to see these because the public needs to understand what we're doing.
Absolutely.
So there's some real questions there. Why is she doing this? We're not sure. She was his spokeswoman during the campaign. Now, I will say during the campaign, she didn't want anything to do with me, though I was a great voice, talking about in alignment with a lot of Kennedy's objectives. I, too, was not, I don't agree with him on everything. But in the way of Maha, we found a lot of common grounds. And I've talked to him about that. And they weren't going to let Kennedy on my show. But she's been a lot of people have not been hired. A lot of Kennedy supporters have been isolated and frozen out under her reign as chief of staff. So that's one problematic area we've identified. And there's so many cases of it now. It's like, okay, well, the problem is there, right? That's just one. Now there are, like I said, multiple influences. That's just at HHS, y'all.
Yeah.
We can go around the town in DC and name similar problems. I mean, look at the CIA. It's not just me saying it now. Very authoritative voices on the intelligence community, like General Mike Flynn, have now confirmed that in some ways, John Brennan, who is up to his eyeballs in the Russiagate scandal, has some operational control over the CIA. Why?
Oh.
Because all the people he hired, the 99% of the people he hired that owe their allegiance to Brennan, and these people, when they get put in these jobs, they can be very loyal to the person who put them in place. Sure. And that loyalty goes right back to John Brennan. So what we're seeing in the intelligence side is that they're trying to stop intelligence from reaching the president, whether it relates to Russia or if it relates to election fraud. They effectively try to remove information from intelligence product and reports that would make its way to the president, and then action would be taken on. It's a real problem.
It's kind of like first term. This restriction of information, the free flow that should happen to the president of the United States, cabinet members turning on him, isolation of activists. I mean, we call them activists. These are activists for the American people. We have activists who are communist activists in a lot of these agencies, and we're seeing this all over again. Now, Trump came out with 2 statements yesterday, and I let everything I give everything like 6 months. I think people overreact to statements way too quickly. We're in an information war. I think everyone kind of any smart people realize that right now. So I don't take too much, everything with a grain of salt, which, by the way, the term grain of salt, no one knows where that came from. I try to say this. Every ancient antidote to a poison included 1 grain of salt. So when you're telling somebody, take it with a grain of salt, you're saying, what I'm telling you is poison, but please take this antidote for it right away. And I think you kind of put that in play.
I didn't know that. Thank you for explaining that
almost
to me.
No one does. Yeah, it's such a fascinating piece of history. But here are 2 statements that came out yesterday. Number one, you mentioned it earlier, right? He talked about warp speed, how he's so proud of warp speed. And there's many theories around that the vaccines were switched and all these other things. I don't know. Again, I'm just trying to report news. That was one thing that I think 90% of Americans cringed at immediately. And it was followed up by another statement saying that the Epstein hoax is a Democrat hoax and it's complete BS. I won't use that word, but he did. What in the world is going on here, Emerald? I mean, if this is information war, this is at a very high level because the American people want transparency. We're adults. We can take it. We know how bad it is. Just let us see how bad.
Are you asking me if he's playing 5D chess with those statements when we're talking about information warfare?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't. The 5D chess thing that's so 2019 to me. It's just beyond.
It wasn't 5D chess then. It's not 5D chess now.
Yeah, I'm just asking: is he throwing a curveball out there?
That's what would blow my mind. I would talk to very reasonable people, right? Just regular people, but my friends who are very, very bright, very well educated in 2020, and they would say, or 2020 and 2021 particularly, they said, no, Trump's got this under control. And they would say, but did you see what he did here? And I'm like, then you realize when people are not actually living in DC and in these rooms and talking to these people, how you could see it that way. But actually knowing the people they were talking about and having spent time sitting and talking with them, often about whatever particular matter at hand they were spinning as 5D chess, I said, no, you don't.
Yeah, it takes a lot
of
You
have to understand how this really works.
The last time President Trump was in office, gold soared 50% and silver went up a huge 53%. Americans who invested in silver and gold during Donald Trump's first presidency are very happy that they did it. And right now, gold continues to soar to the highest numbers in history. These gains are just an appetizer for what's to come. Some market analysis are saying that gold is predicted to rise another 30% in the next year alone. So now's the time to invest in gold and silver, and that's why I partnered with Fisher Liberty Gold. Fisher Liberty Gold is a conservative-owned and operated precious metals investment company. They even helped my good friend President Trump get elected through their contributions to Turning Point USA and other conservative groups. I have dedicated my life to ensuring that people get the best sleep ever. And in addition to owning a MyPillow, I can now sleep well at night knowing that you can all protect your savings with precious metals with Fisher Liberty Gold. With Fisher Liberty Gold, you can sleep well knowing that your retirement is secure. And if you call now, you're going to receive your very own presidential gold guide and qualify for up to $20,000 in free silver. But wait, there's more. Call now or text metals to 26786 to receive your presidential gold guide from Fisher Liberty. And for a limited time, I will send you a free MyPillow for qualified accounts. This presidential gold guide from Fisher Liberty will tell you exactly why you need to own gold even while Donald Trump is president. And just by calling in, you get a free MyPillow for a limited time for qualified accounts. and up to $20,000 in free silver. So don't wait. Call 1-888-4GOLD-19 or text metals to 26786 today. That's 1-888-4GOLD-19 or text metals to 26786 today to receive your free MyPillow and up to $20,000 in free silver.
Here's what I can tell you about Trump that I have gleaned from his personality, having, lived and breathed Trump for 10 years, right? My kids, when they come out of the womb, they know my voice, my husband's voice, and President Trump's voice. They literally would turn their little like newborn heads kind of to like the TV to his voice. He's an extremely caring person, actually. Excellent sense of humor. If he would go with his gut and not listen to the whispers around him or the last person who was in his ear, but go with his instincts, 99% of the time he would actually be right, honestly. Very good instincts. Maybe not as good on judging people as his instincts on policy or,
personnel. Yeah.
Yeah, personnel is not his strong suit. That's clear. Yeah. I think most people know that now. Also, and this is something I think you learn in doing business, right? Particularly as a real estate mogul, is never admit when you're wrong. Never admit that you're wrong. And I think that's a little bit of what is going on with Operation Warp Speed. I think that's also, it's definitely what is he has to, at this point, enough people I know have presented him with the evidence, have told him personal stories. Yeah. John Rich publicly recalled the personal story he shared with President Trump and Lindsey Graham, Lady Lindsey, at dinner one evening about how he personally knows people adversely affected by the jabs. And was very,
we all do.
John did not hold back. But medical professionals have told him. Bobby Kennedy has told him. I also believe that President Trump has his own personal reasons for understanding that vaccines and the way that we've developed them and the lack of rigorous testing and the liability provisions, granted to Big Pharma are problematic. Yeah. I truly believe he understands that. But when faced in 2020 with what he believed would be mass death that he would be blamed for, he did earnestly try to get therapeutics out there. Yes, he very much believed in hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin, so much so he let Peter Navarro go and buy up tons of it, right? But he did not have operational control of the administrative state. He didn't understand his executive power, really. He, in a lot of ways, abdicated some of it to Mike Pence, who gave it over to Mark Short, his chief of staff, who is just as swampy as you can get, and who then gave it over to an intelligent professional who still does media interviews with a picture of Lord Fauci behind her, named Olivia Troy, and who's up to her eyeballs in all kinds of scandals, intelligence scandals. So President Trump, I think, can't admit that this was a misstep. Now, I think his intentions, I truly believe, a lot of people say, well, I don't know about his intentions. He has to know that it's killing people. I think in 2020, his intentions, you have to understand what was going on at the time. And if you were around all of this and seeing it, you kind of get it. His intentions were good. He really did not want people to die. And he, when they wouldn't let him go with therapeutics, when they blocked that at every turn, when the pharmacies blocked it, when all of the common sense could not prevail, he felt, he went with the vaccines, right? And he was promised that these are great. And he believes, I think, in the experts. He comes from the group that tends to, the age group that tend to believe in them. And his instincts were not to go with mash. His instincts were to go with therapeutics.
Yeah.
But then, like I said, he didn't get to go with his instincts. And so now he just can't admit he's wrong. That's what I think on the
on warp speed.
Based on my personal experience, talking to him over the years, covering him over the years, getting to know his sensibilities, that's what I see. Now that's just my opinion. That's a personal experience with him and what I gleaned from it and why I think he continues to push Operation Warp Speed. On the Epstein front, I'm just like the rest of you.
Yeah.
This is something else. I do think I will note the timing of the announcement that there would be no further investigation. That was on the eve of Netanyahu's visit to DC.
The king of DC returned. Yes.
Yeah, and as you know, all of DC is now nearly in Israel right now.
Yep.
Sitting behind Netanyahu, posing.
But we're also hunting down Maduro. There was a
congressional delegation, a Cartel that went. Mike Johnson.
Yeah. Oh, Mike Johnson. Does he live in Israel? Is he on like 3 Main Street in Tel Aviv?
Right.
Yeah, but we have another thing happening right now. Speaking of Israel, is we're now hunting down Maduro for $50 million. One thing I learned last night is Maduro has been very critical of Israel since 2024. So we didn't really care about Maduro.
That too. I'm glad you brought that up. Yes, he's critical of Maduro, but of Israel, but there's a lot more to the Maduro.
Oh, he's not a good guy. Don't get me wrong. Yeah.
And no, it's not. It's beyond him being a good guy. And we'll get into that in a moment. Let's finish up FC, and then I can't wait because I haven't even gotten to really talk about this. And this is really the case I've been on. This is a story I've been on for months. I've been just head down into Venezuela. So I'm looking forward to talking about this.
Great.
Epstein, I think, here's what I think from knowing that the blackmail operation absolutely existed and Epstein
100%.
isn't the only one. I believe that so many people are implicated. It does pose a true national security issue because you would have so many people taken out of positions in the United States and abroad. I had a source close to Netanyahu admit to me that Epstein was their guy. Just a couple weeks ago while they were trying to talk me off talking about it, because you get these calls, they call and they're like, hey, well, yeah, it's not really that, trying to influence you, invite you to something, help you make some money. The conversation also always involves a way to help you make money while they're telling you that, And so they have moved away in the background as they're talking to reporters. They've moved away from saying he's not our guy, or it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, right? And not saying he's not our guy to, yeah, it doesn't matter. But she said, yeah, he's our guy, but he wasn't Netanyahu's guy. He was Ehud Barak's guy. Netanyahu didn't have anything to do with him. It was Ehud Barak, and they're really two different factions. So there's
and you checked your driver's license. You're like, no, I wasn't. Yep. No, I wasn't born yesterday. It's not on there. Yeah. It's so ridiculous.
Wish I could just really release some of these calls I get.
And I like you, Mike Baker, but shame on you for saying that Epstein was what did you say, Russian and Chinese asset? Like the guy was set free from incarceration to go to Israel on his first arrest.
Well, but there's an interesting nexus there. And you should I could give you some recommendations for people who, there are Russia-Israeli ties that run very deep.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
And so you could say, actually, Robert Maxwell, Ghislaine's father, was a triple agent, right?
Yeah.
He was first a Russian agent, then Israeli agent, then, also played with MI6.
Right.
So there is definitely some coordination there. And of course, now with the ties between Russia and China, the growing, budding relationship, then you could kind of say, well, yeah, there's probably was some Chinese influence, but let's not.
But that assumption neglects 3 obvious pinpoints in this equation here. It neglects the CIA, it neglects Mossad, and it neglects
CIA's
MI6.
up to their neck in Epstein too, right?
Yeah,
and
course,
we're gonna, and if you reveal it all, the CIA is implicated, and we have to admit, well, our own intelligence community allowed our children to be raped for blackmail.
I mean, we're adults. We've got to be able to, the national security thing, I think, I understand it from an operational perspective. You have people in roles, they're making things function. But I think from the American public, I think we're beyond that. right? Like replacing intelligence assets is difficult. They have
Well,
years
here's
of
what they
background.
always tell us, though. They pretend we're too stupid to understand.
Of course, yeah.
And that we can't handle the truth. But that's just a way for them to maintain their power and their hold.
Let's face it, you can't trust Big Pharma. They've already tried to block ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, and raise prices on everything from antibiotics to your daily meds. Well, there's good news. All Family Pharmacy is standing up for medical freedom and helping people get the treatments they actually want. My family and I use them all the time. They made it easy and affordable without the runaround. While other pharmacies are jacking up prices, they've actually dropped theirs. Ivermectin now starts at just $2 a capsule. Use my promo code Lindell10, you get an extra 10% off of that. You need ivermectin, antibiotics, or methylene blue, you name it, they've got it. They make it simple. You fill out a short online form, a licensed doctor reviews it, your meds ship fast right to your front door. If you want to be prepared and have your medications on hand, this is your new pharmacy. Visit allfamilypharmacy.com/Lindell. Promo code Lindell10 saves you even more. That's allfamilypharmacy.com/Lindell. Promo code Lindell10. Have you ever wondered what happened to the legendary Chuck Norris? Well, I recently saw a video he made and I was shocked. That guy's amazing and he's staying active well into his 80s. What's even more shocking is he's stronger, can work out longer, and even has plenty of energy left over for his grandkids. He did this by just making one change. He says he still feels like he's in his 50s. His wife even started doing this one thing too, and she's never felt better. She says she feels 10 years younger, her body looks leaner, and she has energy all day. Chuck made a very special video that explains everything. Make sure you watch it by going to chuckdefense.com/Lindell. It will change the way you think about your health. Once again, that's chuckdefense.com/Lindell. You won't believe how simple it is.
Of course. Yeah. It's always for our safety. And, you know, it would be damaging for us to learn these things when we all know it. We just want confirmation. I don't think anyone has any doubts that Epstein existed. He blackmailed people by allowing them to rape children. That all intelligence agencies around the world, considering the list that we've already seen on flight logs, was absolutely involved in all these things. I think what we're looking for is confirmation, right? So how does a conspiracy theory go into truth? Confirmation and verifiable confirmation. And I think Epstein is such an interwoven web. I don't know that we'll ever hear that. I don't know that we'll ever.
But here's kind of how you have to look at it too. And I was having this conversation this morning because me and my team from my show, everybody would actually, that should be the show because the conversations we have to prep for the show are so good. Okay. They're so colorful and we all come from amazing, you know, like one guy that works on my show is like a renowned national security guy and he's been around for all kinds of stuff, you know, and then then a couple other people will call and they'll chime in and we just have the best time. It's a grand old time. I should probably just open up a call and just call it the briefing and that's actually a better show and we can all talk about it. What we were saying though, in this move though, Trump inadvertently is still a flashlight, right? Though he might not be promoting transparency in his case, in this particular issue related to Epstein, saying, oh no, we're not gonna really, you know, it's who cares? He's drawing more attention to it. Yeah. And more people are like saying, well, why is he saying this? So in the lack of transparency with Trump, we're almost still getting more transparency, right? Because people are, and then they're looking at the ties to Israel now and saying, well, they're almost undeniable. Yeah. So in its own way, in his own Trump way, inadvertently, he's still a flashlight, even when he's trying not to be.
Yeah. Well, I think the things that are weird are like, you know, when he says this Epstein guy was a creep. He had a 20+ year relationship. The guy went to both of his weddings. I mean, just admit that. No one would have a problem.
There is definitely something. I don't think, you know, Trump was involved with a young woman. I don't believe that. But there is something for sure. He was around Epstein, like you said, 20+ years. They were on the Palm Beach and Manhattan circles. There is something in there that he believes it would hurt him, you know? Sure. And I think because of that, and because of what they're probably telling him about it, who knows? He might not even seen what's in it. They're making out, who's ever briefing him is probably making it out to be way worse than it even is, right? To keep him from releasing the files, because this is what they do. They've done it many times in other situations. Telling them, oh, this is so bad, Mr. President. You cannot do it. It's going to ruin your presidency. It will end you. And it's probably something, not unconfirmed, relatively minor.
Yeah.
And that is factoring into, because usually he's much better on messaging. And this has been a public relations nightmare. They have just botched it. And even when his staff botches it, Trump usually doesn't, right? And he usually recovers well. If he does make a messaging mistake here or there, he recovers very well.
Yeah, he's brilliant.
This is atypical for him.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think his name's probably in there. I don't think it's anything damning, but how could his name not be in there? I mean, when you have a personal relationship from someone and all their files are pulled, your name is going to be in there.
At the club for a while before Trump threw him out. So,
Yeah, and he talked about Epstein stealing people from his spa at Mar-a-Lago. So, like, his name's going to be in there, and it's okay. Like, just let us see what it is. I have no concerns that Donald Trump was doing things to young children at all. I have no concern.
I don't either.
But it is causing ruckus.
But the messaging is making it way worse. But it is getting people to pay attention. Okay, so before we run out of time, I do want to get back to Maduro, because this is the thing. The administration hasn't messaged on this yet either. And I'm about the only reporter that has the story and have actually been paying attention to Maduro. I am never for regime change. We're terrible at it. It always goes back. Okay, so let's just start there. I am not promoting regime change. But let's understand Maduro and Venezuela. Venezuela is actually run by the cartels, particularly Cartel del Sol, Cartel of the Sun, right? They are the ones propping up Maduro. So Maduro is tied to there's not even a difference, right? This is what we don't understand. The cartel runs Venezuela. The cartel is not a Mexican cartel. Don't think Sinaloa cartel, because that is chump change.
Yeah.
The Venezuelan cartels, Cartel del Sol and others, it's a $4 trillion industry. They are essentially their own nation state. Wow. They filter money into NGOs. They give money. They have bankers who help them filter money to George Soros. So a lot of the destabilizing efforts that you see, we always wonder how George Soros has endless money. Well, a lot of that comes from the cartels, particularly the Venezuelan cartel. There's lots of evidence. The administration, I can say openly now, has been briefed on all of this. Every aspect of Venezuela they've been briefed on. Tren de Aragua, the money laundering. Tren de Aragua is a paramilitary organization that is headed by the Venezuelan government. And now that Trump's been deporting them, this isn't getting widely reported, they have repurposed them and sent them into Europe. So they're going to do the same thing in Europe with TDA. They engage in money laundering, drug trafficking, human trafficking, child trafficking, and election rigging.
Well-rounded group, very diversified activities in this organization.
Very organized. Like I said, you cannot think about your Mexican cartels. This is a whole different level, and we haven't been paying attention to them.
Did you say 4 trillion?
$4 trillion. We thought it was 2.7. We have recently learned it's probably closer to $4 trillion.
I mean, Mexican cartels are in the billions.
They're also busy paying for lobbyists tied to Trump right now. Okay. They have paid for many Republican figures. They have flipped many assets in our government at the highest levels. The electioneering part of this goes back to the company Smartmatic. The current vice president of Venezuela, Delcy Rodriguez, her brother was a key figure in Smartmatic. He has many good friends in Florida Republican politics. The machines have been a major part of this. Now, what you're seeing the administration do is lay the groundwork, right? Trump has signed the executive orders designating Cartel del Sol a terrorist organization.
Yes.
Also the same for Tren de Aragua. They're rolling this out slowly. You've seen the Russiagate, right? And you understand that, yes, at the very highest levels of our government, they engaged in a coup and they are corrupt. This is laying the groundwork for what will come in revealing how our elections work. And I have a lot of this. It takes so much time to go into, but I'll come back and talk about it more when I can. But go to my election thread that's pinned to the top of my X at Emerald Robinson, and I have documented this. It's well over 100 tweets now. I give a lot of the source materials. I say when it's just a source talking to me, but for the most part, there's a lot of open source information there where you can catch up, so you can be prepared for when they roll out the real action on Venezuela. They have been majorly influencing our elections. A lot of that is coming out a little bit in the USA versus Smartmatic case that is happening in the Southern District of Florida. That goes to trial on October 1st. Okay, they have indicted 4 executives from this Venezuelan-born, though they based in the United States, Venezuelan-born voting machine company. This involves bribing officials in the Philippines to use their technology, but it also now implicates them doing it in Venezuela, though there's a lot of, they were already in bed there. But this technology, this electronic voting software was put into multiple countries across the globe, okay, by USAID money and through an NGO called SEPS. I'm getting ready to drop a Substack on that with lots of the diagrams so you can understand, because it is a very complex web. It's very intricate and how they've done this. And what you have to understand is that the Smartmatic software has been licensed and purchased by multiple other voting machine companies now. Though they say, oh, well, that's theirs. But you bought it and you licensed it. So how did you change it, if at all? But if you go back and you go back through the mergers and the acquisitions, it goes right back to Smartmatic in Venezuela.
In a communist country. A communist country is selling election software. Yeah. I mean, really think about that. Simplicity.
A lot of the problems we're seeing in America, though we wouldn't have thought about it, right? Because we think about it as like a failed state.
Right.
We don't understand how the infrastructure of the cartel is, because we look at Venezuela and we see the people and we think, oh, this is just a failed state. We have had no idea the kind of influence they had on our politics and our elections and the destabilization that we're seeing in our country. And this does not say that the Chinese aren't involved, because it all comes together in Venezuela. There's Iranian influence, there's Chinese influence, and it involves another country as well in Eastern Europe, believe it or not. So it sounds like a thriller. It sounds like, a psychological thriller, or a detective story. But this is where that is why you're seeing action from the Trump administration on Maduro. Now, it may, of course, he's been critical of Israel. He's tied to Iran. They're very close with Iran. So, but that's not really what this action is about, though I'm sure a lot of people will also make that conclusion. There is definitely, in this particular situation, there's more to the story.
Is that why he may have this morning, I think he authorized military use against cartels and kind of left it blank cartels. Didn't say Mexican cartels. He just said cartels.
Ding, ding, ding. That's exactly right. That's another step towards this.
So he's doing it piece by piece, just putting together the offensive, because we're in defense. America's been in defensive mode for 20 years. But now we're going on the offense. And this is amazing. I'm glad I brought up Maduro to clear that up.
I'm glad you did too.
So yeah, Israel will be a good distraction from the real purpose. Oh, he hates Israel and that's why they want to get him here.
Yeah.
But
in a lot of cases, right, that is kind of what has happened.
Oh,
it's like, oh, well, it's because this, but in this case, there's more to it.
Oh, sure. Look, a year ago, anyone critical of Israel had their account banned in a heartbeat. A couple weeks ago, actually. But yeah, this is an interesting. Emerald, I know we're running out of time. This is thanks for giving me like a project over the weekend that I have to waste more time on here, because I'm definitely going to be digging through that. When's the Substack coming
out? Hopefully next week. I've just had to put it on hold. So.
Well, let me know for sure. I'll share it out. I'll get a bunch of other people to share it out. This is amazing. One thing that I'll say, all this stuff we're talking about is always, we hear the term doomer, conspiracy theorist. We're just trying to assess reality. That's what reality is.
That's it.
And the beautiful part of this.
We can't win if we don't know what we're facing.
Sun Tzu, Art of War, know thy enemy more than you know, better than you know yourself. I think it's paramount. But the good news is, and I know you're a person of faith as well, I'm seeing more people turn to God. You know, we've
That
leaned
is
on
part of it.
DC all our
Mhm.
lives, or leaned on our job or our kids, and this movement of faith throughout the country is one of the more
Mhm.
beautiful things. We have baptism weekend at our church this weekend. It's my
Oh,
favorite time of
wonderful.
the month. And I've seen almost 1,000 people in a little church over the age of 40 get baptized. I've never even thought that that was a thing. I'm one of
I'll
them.
tell you, I heard so many instances in 2020, particularly when they took away our rights and, tried to just shut us down in our homes and isolate us. I had so many friends I hadn't talked to in like a while. People I went to college with.
Mhm.
I remember one lady in particular, she reached out to me. She said, you're really the only Christian I ever knew. And she's like, I don't know what's going on, but it's like a spontaneous conversion. It wasn't that somebody witnessed to her. It was just like during that moment of everything going on, she said, I started feeling like I needed to pray. And then I got a Bible. And she's like, I don't even understand how to read it, really. So I'm just asking you if you can maybe help me. And I'm like, well, you're going to have to find a good church. And right now that's a little hard because a lot of them are complying with COVID. But let's find you a good church. And I have now heard so many stories like that. It was like spontaneous revival conversions. It was amazing.
Well, the darkness is trying to overwhelm humanity, and we are the light. And that's just the way it's always going to be. It's never going to change. God has our back. We're going to see crazy things. I think the next 4 years are going to be filled with absolutely upside down world type stuff, because we've been living in the upside down world. So we're now actually getting our feet on reality. And part of that is, and I'll say this over and over again, relation is greater than religion.
Yes.
Talk to God. You don't need a church. Most of the churches are corrupt to begin with. I mean, that's just a simple fact. Just talk to God. And I think we're seeing so many people do that. And it's because of the reporting people like you do, getting out there, digging in the weeds, uncovering stuff people don't want to hear. 4 years ago, this was a much harder thing, was trying to get people to understand this is what's happening. Now people are starving for it.
Yeah, it's such a different lay of the land now. It's almost unbelievable when it's no longer taboo to say things that got me kicked off Twitter and fired and, written about in every outlet across the country.
Oh yeah, I
like
remember
I'm a crazy person.
You were not crazy. You were actually brave, and we appreciate you doing exactly what you did.
Thank you, Eric. It's great
So,
to talk with you.
How can people get a hold of you? Where can they follow you and see your work?
Yeah, of course, I mentioned my ex, where I'm doing the long thread, but also I've done a lot of this work in detailed analysis over the years on my Substack at emerald.tv. So you can go back and, search on the archive for election, Venezuela, stolen election, Bill Barr. You'll be interested to learn the things you read about Bill Barr.
I'm trying to forget about Bill Barr.
You can go back and get caught up on my emerald.tv Substack.
Awesome. Everyone should go there and check it out. And Emerald, thank you so much for coming on. Look forward to having you on here again and being on your show. That was a lot of fun as well. So we'll get people understanding Bitcoin and what this new movement is on there. Thank you so much. This is so enlightening for people. I am excited right now to have a project over the weekend. My wife might not be excited about that project, but I'm going to be digging in your Substack and seeing what's going on. So thank you so much.
Tell your wife I'm sorry. Bye.
God bless you. God bless America. We'll see you next time.
Amen.
With everybody talking about making America healthy again, I thought today'd be a great day to talk to all my fellow patriots about the importance of making your homes healthy again. Well, we have proudly partnered with airwaterhealing.com and their revolutionary whole home air purification system. The V3 from Air Water Healing does 3,000 square feet of purification. It eliminates dust, mold, viruses, and odors. But here's the part I love. They require no filters to ever be changed and virtually no maintenance. Whether you suffer from asthma, allergies, seasonal bronchitis, or just want to protect your family from the flu or even greater threats, don't wait to get your V3 from airwaterhealing.com today. Use code Lindell for 20% off in savings and free shipping. That's promo code Lindell at airwaterhealing.com. If you want to drop extra pounds, boost energy levels, and reduce swelling in your legs and feet, then this message is for you. Pure Health Research is on a mission to make America healthy again. And two of their best-selling health supplements are leading the way. First is Liver Health Formula. Over 100 million Americans have a sluggish liver that's riddled with fatty deposits. This can kill your metabolism, pile on the pounds, and make you feel tired. Liver Health Formula takes care of that. It supports thriving liver health with special nutrients like artichoke extract and milk thistle. This is one of the easiest ways to slim down and revitalize your energy levels. Next is lymph system support. If you struggle with fluid buildup or swelling in your legs, ankles, and feet, this is for you. The natural ingredients in lymph system support help gently flush away extra fluid and toxins out of your body. And right now, for a limited time, you get 35% off liver health formula and lymph system support, along with 50 plus other health supplements that Pure Health Research has to offer. So head over to purehealthresearch.com and use promo code Lindell at checkout. That's purehealthresearch.com, promo code Lindell to save 35% on your order today. The last time President Trump was in office, gold soared 50% and silver went up a huge 53%. Americans who invested in silver and gold during Donald Trump's first presidency are very happy that they did it. And right now, gold continues to soar to the highest numbers in history. These gains are just an appetizer for what's to come. Some market analysts are saying that gold is predicted to rise another 30% in the next year alone. So now's the time to invest in gold and silver, and that's why I partnered with Fisher Liberty Gold. Fisher Liberty Gold is a conservative-owned and operated precious metals investment company. They even helped my good friend President Trump get elected through their contributions to Turning Point USA and other conservative groups. I have dedicated my life to ensuring that people get the best sleep ever, and in addition to owning a MyPillow, I can now sleep well at night knowing that you can all protect your savings with precious metals with Fisher Liberty Gold. With Fisher Liberty Gold, you can sleep well knowing that your retirement is secure. And if you call now, you're going to receive your very own presidential gold guide and qualify for up to $20,000 in free silver. But wait, there's more. Call now or text metals to 26786 to receive your presidential gold guide from Fisher Liberty. And for a limited time, I will send you a free MyPillow for qualified accounts. This presidential gold guide from Fisher Liberty will tell you exactly why you need to own gold even while Donald Trump is president. And just by calling in, you get a free MyPillow for a limited time for qualified accounts and up to $20,000 in free silver. So don't wait. Call 1-888-4GOLD-19 or text metals to 26786 today. That's 1-888-4GOLD-19 or text metals to 26786 today to receive your free MyPillow and up to $20,000 in free silver.
You know, it's a serious thing that Trump is doing when the New York Times prints a headline making it out like Trump is just throwing a tantrum and punishing the banks for it. We're now joined by senior Claremont fellow and former attorney for President Donald Trump's 2020 election year legal challenge, the great Dr. John Eastman, who Bank of America also debanked. Your thoughts on the new developments?
Well, you know, it was never clear to me whether this was the corporate boardrooms of Bank of America, and I also got debanked by USAA, just playing leftist woke politics, or whether, in fact, banking regulators were breathing down their neck, and they just at some point said, you know, it's not worth the cost of all the administrative effort we have to do to respond to all these banking regulators' inquiries about Eastman's transactions. Did he buy sporting goods from a Dick's Sporting Store or whatever? And they said it's just not worth it for a small individual account. We'll make a business decision. It was never clear to me which of those it was, or some combination of both. But look, at least with respect to USAA, which is a bank devoted to military members and their families, people who have put the ultimate sacrifice on the line. We were members of USAA because my wife's father fought in the Navy in World War II and in the Marines in Korea. And you would think that if it was banking regulators, that they would have stood up to this, or at least exposed what was going on so that we could stand up to it. But no, they didn't. They capitulated, and that may be too soft a word, because it seems like they were perfectly happy to comply with those regulators' orders. They could have fought back against it, and they should have fought back against it. And what I'm hoping for now is with Trump's new executive order, that this is a thread in a sweater that just starts to unravel the whole regime. I do think banking regulators under Biden were up to their eyeballs in spying without warrants on American citizens and their financial transactions. And these bankers need to be held accountable for going along with that without raising a peep.
You know what? You raise an excellent point. Recall, Dr. Eastman, that an FBI whistleblower revealed that the Bank of America did share banking information of what, like every person. I'm just going to say they shared information of people who were in D.C. on J6 with the FBI without a warrant. It sounded like so they were more than happy to go along with this. And while they say it was the Biden regime, they didn't have to comply. But that's at least one instance that we know of that they willingly complied without pressure, and that was related to J6.
Well, that's right. And on mine, when President Trump called out Bank of America in the Davos speech, they quickly fired back on X and said, we don't do that. And I fired back and I said, oh, pray tell, then why did you debank me? They sent, and they initially claimed that they didn't do that. And then I produced a letter where they debanked me. And the letter had, and people can go back on my X account back in April of 2024. This is all there. I posted up the letter. The letter says, if you want additional information, please call this number. And I called that number, and it's basically a stuff it. We're not giving you any more information, and our decision is final. Goodbye. And I've got the recording of that phone call that we posted up there as well. So the notion that they didn't do this was a lie. And then when they finally got caught having done it, they said, oh, now they're saying, well, the banking regulators did it, or there are other reasons, and we can't talk about that because it invades Eastman's privacy. Now, USAA said that, one of my supporters who was a USAA member, and they wanted to find out what went on. And USAA said, we can't tell you, we could tell Eastman, but it's privacy. So I called them and said, okay, you told this guy, you could tell me. And for a month and a half, we went around and around and around. They finally said, oh, we can't tell you either. So they refused to tell me why they debanked me. Certainly not, overdraws or anything like that, nothing like that. It's either my politics or they got tired of dealing with regulators who were unconstitutionally searching through my transactions to see if they could find something to pin on me.
So it looks like we saw a draft for the executive order that President Trump could sign. It's not confirmed, but if it's one that would be retroactive. So there would be retroactive action on banks that went after, like you, Dr. Eastman. Yeah. Is that how it needs to be handled? And is that constitutional?
Well, breaking news, we're no longer in draft. It came out yesterday. So we now have the executive order, and it's telling the banks that they're going to start being treated like a utility, that they cannot deprive people of access to financial services for political reasons. And by the way, a year ago, there were 7 or 8 or 13, I forget the number, states attorneys general that had served subpoenas on the banks because in some states, political discrimination is as illegal as racial or gender discrimination. And so in those states, what was going on here is a crime. And so all of this is being investigated. And the fact that it's now being investigated at the federal level means we're going to start looking at the federal regulators as well to find out what kind of collusive arrangement the federal regulators were having with these banks to turn over basic financial private data on American citizens without warrants to people that were using it to weaponize our law enforcement agencies.
So then, given that there's now, states investigations, and then there's now obviously something at the federal level, does that mean that people who were victims of this debanking can sue the banks? Will this then involve litigation, civil litigation?
Well, it's unclear how this is going to play out. One of the things that the executive order says is that they have to reach out to anybody they debanked and offer to put them back in good stead with them. What are the damages? It took me a week to move all of my accounts to redo all the automatic payments. So I've got some time invested in it. And I'm probably not going back to Bank of America.
I was going to say, when
matter what
they
the
call you and reach out, are you going to do business with them again, Dr. Eastman?
Yeah. I'll say, well, it depends on how many zeros are after the number you're going to begin my account with before I'll begin. But no, what went on is I mean, it was more harassment from the banking side.
Yeah.
I mean, I found another bank. Old Glory Bank was more than happy to take me on and actually made me part of their marketing campaign. But I want to get deeper. I want the executive order to unravel what the banking regulators were doing, because that's part of the overall weaponization that did occur under Biden. Now, I'm not willing to let the bankers off the hook because, oh, no, we just, they made us do it. I'm sorry. They could have told me that they was banking regulators that were doing this. They could have given me name and chapter and verse of who was doing it, so I could then pursue the illegal conduct by those regulators. They didn't do any of that. So they are, if not equally culpable, at least culpable in a large degree here for what went on, in my view.
Yeah, they are. Dr. Eastman, positive direction, positive news. Thank you so much for joining us.